Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We are on the Barber Shop Show, and I have just taken over your show, haven't I?
I was like, I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with it. Welcome to the show, Cece. It's been a while. Have I ever had you on the barbershop? I know you've had me on your show, and we've shared shows.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think
Right?
I don't think I have been, but yeah, but
That's really funny.
I just take over your show.
Commandeered it. I'm all about it. I'm all about it. I love that. So I'm going to share. You can introduce yourself. So you are now watching the barbershop. This is Dr. Christopher Sloot, WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio. You're watching Going Bold Wednesdays. My guest for today is Cece Shatz. Cece, introduce yourself to my people, which are our people. While I share the show.
Yeah, it's really nice to be here. And thank you so much for having me on the show. We're going to talk about podcasting, video cast, streaming, all of these wonderful things. And if those of you that don't know me, I am Cece Shatz. I'm the actual owner of the Going Solo Media.com and been in the business for years. And so I've been doing this for quite some time. So I'm the owner of Going Solo Network and, have several shows of my own. And I love doing this. Absolutely love it.
Now, Cece, how many shows do you have?
Oh, I do a lot. Well, we do the Going Solo with Cece show, and I alternate both, just kind of fun stuff, informational type of things, for singles, and then also the divorce. Of course, I'm very passionate about the divorce. And then we've switched up. We started a new show called Date the Right One. So we talk about dating issues. Of course, I'm on the wonderful show Boy and Girl Thing with you. And we love that. I'm on vacation. So you've noticed my background is very different. So I'm on vacation. I'm in the kids' room in my son's house. So in the basement.
I love it.
Yeah.
Because it's funny. So we'll talk a bit about our current situations. We're sitting here. We were just joking about it. We're trying to tell people, hey, you should be starting a podcast. I'm going to talk a bit about like your background and all these. And Cece, you're in your kids' playroom. I just moved into my house. I have none of my equipment with me, and it's like we're sitting here trying to tell people how to do the right thing on podcasts, and we're like not doing the right thing.
And we're totally like, if I turn my thing around, we got like the exercise room there. We've got playroom over there, music area over there.
Yep. I love it. So Cece, while I'm sharing the show real quick, how did we meet? So I was on your show, and now, how did that all happen?
Gosh, it's been so long. I don't even remember how we met. I mean, I don't know if I reached out to you and then asked you to be on the show, maybe.
I think you reached out to me because of Bold Magazine and Fabulous Magazine, and you had said we want to interview you, and I said, hey, the best time for me would be like a lunch hour, or maybe you were starting a new program called the Business Lunch Hour or something like that.
Yeah, I do that. I do the business. I do a lot of shows. I do the Business Lunch Hour.
Yeah.
I also do, then that's kind of an alternate bi-weekly type of show. And then also I do the Author's Corner, which is very popular. Everybody seems to love the
Author's Corner. Tell me about that.
Well, the Author's Corner, I just take and interview authors regarding their books, what they, really what their passion is. Why did they decide to write this book, and what is the book about? How is it going to help other people?
I didn't know that. You do that, right?
Yeah, no, I do a lot of things. I'm very mysterious.
That's funny. Now, what's funny is, so news on me, we'll get into some other news, but news on me is my book was just finally sent to the printer, and you can pre-order the digital copy starting today. So I will put that all over my social media. So I should be on the book corner.
I'll interview you. Yeah.
That'd be great. That'd be totally great.
that would be very cool. But yeah.
I love that. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So I wanted to talk. We want to talk a little bit, and I'm still sharing the show, but we want to talk a little bit about, just starting your own podcast. What makes a podcast great? That kind of stuff. And of course, you
can't see you.
Oh, am I not? I'm not.
No, I can see you. You're up there. I don't know. You are a little dark around you.
Oh, is that what he's saying? Well, yeah. Unfortunately, it kind of is what it is. I don't have any of my lighting properly. Like I have nothing here because. Yeah. But can you see me or no?
Yeah, I can see you. I can see you.
Okay, fine,
Well,
let's
and it's the same thing with me. I don't have any. Oh, you're on now. I think maybe there was a hesitation.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
it's the same with me. I don't have any of my lighting. I don't have
Right.
the mic. I don't have my mic. I don't have my camera. I
But
use
thank
the
you, Robbie, for saying
my
that.
camera. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So you know, we met a couple years ago, and
Mhm.
I started my Barber Shop Show with you, and then we started doing some other shows. Now we co-own this bold media and bold Wednesdays, and I think
Mhm.
that's really awesome. And
Yeah.
I wanted to say that we wanted to do this show because we wanted to really highlight, how it's, if you have something to say, it's not all that hard to start a podcast. Um, so before we start the show and before we start doing all that kind of fun stuff, I want to take a moment of silence and prayer, which I always do. But if you would join me, Cece, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we like to do this for anyone and anyone who just needs it, and especially with what's going on with a lot of folks between Uvalde, Ukraine, name anything. And we've got a lot going on in the world. So I'm going to just take a quick moment of silence, and I welcome you to do that as well, Cece. Okay. So, Cece, so when did you start your podcast? Because and so that we're all on the same page, we have been podcasting on Bold for quite some time. We have the Boldcast. We had Plus Universe Roundup monthly. We use some different technology. So when did you start your podcast and your podcast?
Yeah, I was trying to think when I started. I believe I started around 2015.
Okay.
I think I did start then. I'm trying to think because I believe I took over the divorce support group in 2010, and I've
Okay.
been running that ever since. So I've been running that for 12 years now. And so then I believe I started doing and it was a fluke that I started the show. So I
What do you mean?
went on a show.
How was it a fluke?
Well, what happened is I have a really close friend, Connie Rose, and we went to high school together. She had a show, and I went on her show, which it's called Victims to Survivors, which I believe she's not doing that now. She does special talks around the country.
Okay.
And so I was on her show and talked about domestic violence within a relationship because I see it a lot. I've experienced it in my own
Sure.
life. And so anyhow, I went on, and when I came out of the studio, and this is a podcast studio. This is like a streaming radio, internet radio studio.
Yeah.
When I came out, they offered to give me a show. Said, "Listen, if you'll join us here, we'll just give you a show." And they charge for the shows. And so I thought, well, what the heck? I might as well do it, right?
Yeah. I
So
love that. That's really
yeah.
awesome.
And then gradually started, growing within that, developed our own live streaming radio station 24/7. And so what we do is we take the podcasts and we put them on that station and they play. And then we started, doing the video, going out into the video cast. I guess they call it video cast or Vidcast, or I don't know
Yeah.
what they're calling it really. But so it's going into that, and then now we're actually embracing internet TV streaming. We're on Roku, as you well know. We've
Yeah.
got both the Going Solo TV and the Going Bold TV, and we also have one that's called Everyday Life TV, and those are all on the Roku. My show is on the Roku station too. And then my show started out with Going Solo, Life After Divorce, and it was an award-nominated show.
Love that.
And so I was really, really pleased with that. I've been asked to go like some publicity summits and things like that in New York, and featured in a lot of different places. Award. I was Alignables Business of Woman of the Year. So
Right.
and there've been a lot of different things, but it all came from podcasting, right? It all came from media, getting yourself out there, getting yourself exposed. And so I know that we're talking about podcasting, but I think first thing we have to talk about, Christopher, is why do you want to even do this? Why do you want to get going on doing podcasting or vidcast or whatever? What is your true your true passion of doing it? Because it's not a get rich quick scheme, let me tell you. Everybody thinks, I can go out, get on YouTube, I can be a star, I can be an influencer, I can do all of this stuff, but it's very, very difficult.
Yeah. No, I agree. And and I'm just sharing the show to my Instagram real quick.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've noted is that a lot of folks come up to me and they say, I think I want to start a podcast. And look, this came about not because not just because we want to teach people how to podcast. I don't believe that everyone should have a podcast, right? But if you have something to say, then say it, right? And I think the first thing that you want to think about is, do you have a podcast or do you have an idea, right? Do you have one show or one concept that is just an idea? And I think it's important to take note that not everybody needs a podcast, right? But if you do have something to say, then say it, right? So, I mean, obviously there was a need and a niche for what you're talking about. And how many shows do you have now at this point?
Well, gosh, that's a good question. I have all of these wonderful hosts now that have joined me on the platform, which is the Going Solo and Going Solo Media platform. And then now we're branching out. Eventually we're going to be filling up the Going Bold platform too. So we're looking to, really expand it. But I don't know. I've got 25, 30 shows, because I also do I do the live video, but then I also do, we have a comment here. Let's see what say it with your chest. Say it with your.
I think he means not everybody should have a podcast, is what I would say.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Yeah. So anyhow, what was I saying? I was saying I got sidetracked.
You're filling up your shows. You have your podcast, right?
Yeah. So I think you have to kind of decide on, what it is that you want to do and what kind of message you want to give. A lot of people are now running towards the internet, right? Which they weren't before. We've been on the internet for a long, long time now. And I was saying that we do the videos, right? So we do the live videos, we drop them down into the podcast format, and then we play them on various different outlets. And so we've got a numerous amount of listeners, so at not any one platform. And so because it gets distributed throughout, which is something I've been doing for years. And now everybody, before I was being poo-pooed for doing that. Like they said, you shouldn't do that. You should have them focus on your website. And I'm thinking well, you got to get real. I mean, you can't, that's why you got ABC, CBS, all the Fox channel. You got all these other channels because people like to watch different things, right? For different reasons. And so they're on all these various different platforms. And so I go where they are. And so we've got, right now we hit the mark in a month's time. We've been on a month and a half on Roku. And so I call that internet streaming, right? And so we've hit over 2,000 for the month, 200,000 listeners. That's huge. Yeah. And the reason being, I know, and I hate to say this because now everybody's going to jump on it, but the reason being is because there's not a lot of talk shows out there like ours that are on there. There's movies and things like that. So we're hitting something kind of different. So that's another thing is don't, step out of the box a little bit. Try to be a little bit different. Don't, if you're going to start something like this, don't just follow the norm like everybody does. Be willing to do something a little bit different, and don't let what you don't have prevent you from doing it. Like tonight, we're doing a show without lighting. Okay, we are in the dark in videos.
I don't have my mic, I don't have my lighting, I have nothing. I'm really excited. I'm interviewing Sophia Rose next week. She's been somebody that I follow for a long time in the plus size space, and we've become friendly. We worked on a couple projects, and I'm interviewing her for Fabu Plus. And I'm like, I had to be honest with her. I'm like, Sophia, I'm living out of boxes right now. There's no air conditioning in my house. I haven't set up my studio. Like, what do you want to do? You know? And she's like, look, you can come to my place. You can figure it out. Whatever equipment you have, it's fine. We'll work with it. And I contacted a buddy of mine, Rick Bober, and he's got a studio in town, so I might use his studio just because I like to sometimes make it a little bit more professional looking. But the reality is you can just put out a nice backdrop and be fine. Obviously, don't do what we're doing right now. This is like don't do as we say, not as we do. But I think there's more to be said, and we'll go into a couple of things about. There's more to be said about the content and not the format. Well, the format's important too, but I mean the lighting and stuff like that. I've got a buddy, Danny. I hope he's watching. He's going to be on my That Professor Life show, and that's the other network that I have in a couple of weeks. But Danny's. I mean, he doesn't have the right equipment yet, but he's doing it out of his backyard, and he's doing a show about wrestling and it like old school wrestling, and I freaking love watching it because he's just got some cool stuff to say. If you have the right stuff to say, you can kind of podcast from anywhere. But on the other end, you could have the best podcast studio in the world, and if you're a fool, and if you're a Joe Rogan or somebody talking about the evolution of men needing to be poly because they need to spread their seed or whatever, then you're just gonna sound like an idiot.
Yeah, it's. I guess it's just really what you want to try to get across. I mean, we've got so many people now going. They want the exposure for their businesses, right?
Yeah.
And so they're starting a podcast like that. So it's kind of running it a little bit into the ground. But I will say, and this is just my opinion, I think podcasting is yesterday. It's yesterday media. I mean, I'm not trying to discourage anyone for doing it. What's fun about podcasting is that people don't see you, so it's a little bit more of a comfort zone for a lot of the people.
Yeah.
And so getting into a video is really hard. I mean, when I first started doing the videos, it was difficult, at first. Then I actually went on television, real television, did television for a little bit. We had a community TV station here, and I did that, and that about blew me away because those cameras really get right up in your face, and I mean, you can see every freckle you have, and it really blew me away. But so it's just and I'm just a normal person. I'm not anybody. I don't feel any different than anyone else. Went through a very difficult time in my life and trying to help others, get through that themselves. So that's what my gig is. That's what my thing is. But podcasting is a little bit of yesterday. And so if you want to be stepping up and really doing something that's more in the now, more in what people are doing, it's the vidcast like we're doing here on the live. That's really the way to go.
I think there's a space for podcasting. So, for example, I listen to a lot of podcasts when I'm driving, when I'm working. I don't have the space to watch, but you're right. I think the live streaming, that kind of stuff is really important. Happy Wednesday to Tessa, by the way, who's on TikTok. If you're on TikTok, we're talking about should I start a podcast, right? So, do I want to start a podcast or a vodcast, or should I go live on Instagram instead? That kind of stuff. I think there's a lot more, in my opinion, Cece, when we talk about, and I'm going to apologize to TikTok too. I don't have the right lighting or anything like that today. When we talk about this creating of this brand, right? Especially being on air. Again, we're not practicing as we preach today. We're not in our good space, but. What I was going to say is, a lot more goes into it than just having an idea and talking about it, right? How many times, Cece, how many times did we go over the name of our network because we wanted to merge our networks, right? How many times did we go over the logo that we came up with? How many times did we go over the topics? I know I have a specific format. You have a specific format. And how many weeks do you think it was?
Oh, a lot. I mean, you have to really put a lot of thought into it. And again, it circles back to what what you're trying to achieve from it, right?
Right.
And so, so your branding is important. You have to look at it as a business standpoint. And so those kind of things, those elements are very, very, very important. But what some people don't realize the hours it takes, the preparation it takes to do a podcast. For instance, to do a podcast, you have to create the artwork for it. Well, you have to create your logo, right? You have to create your name. You have to, secure whatever format you're going to be putting it on, whatever platform you're going to be putting it on. How many minutes do you want to have it? How do you think you're going to make money off of it? I mean, are you going to do sponsorships? Are you going to do advertisements? Or, what are you going to do? Or do you not care because you're using it as a driver for your business? So, and that's what I would recommend. If you're using it as a driver for your business, it's a great way to be able to showcase yourself because it edifies you as you're going through as an expert, that type of thing. But it takes a lot of hours. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go.
Yeah. I mean, it's a preparation. So, I mean, after you get your initial setup for the podcast, then you've got to come up with all your shows, right? All the titles for your shows, all the guests for your shows. You've got to come up with, all the information you're going to be talking about. It's a lot of work, and it's also a huge amount of commitment because your listeners, as you start doing it, are you going to be live? Are you going to tape in advance? Because your listeners are going to be wanting to see you. They're going to be wanting to hear you, right? If you're doing a podcast, they're going to be wanting to hear you. So they want to hear you maybe at the same time because you want to drive people to be able to listen to you. So at the same platform each, are you doing a weekly, bi-weekly,
Right.
Yeah.
We do ours bi-weekly now. Grown Girl says you have a new fan, Cece. Cece loves when people agree with her. Agree with her. You need to plan out the content, number of episodes, platforms, etc. Who is that you're speaking to? So I'm so sorry if this is your first time watching my live on TikTok. I'm speaking to my partner Cece, who owns Going Solo Radio, and we together own the Going Bold network. So that's what I'm talking to, and we are chatting about starting your own podcast. Thank you, Pretty Red. I am in Vegas, but I'm originally from New York. Welcome from Dallas. And Grown Girl says, hi, Cece.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for commenting. Yeah.
And I agree with you 1,000%. And I think, it's really, the prep, I always try to prep for every show. You'll notice that I have a format for almost every show. This is the first time in a while that I've had a guest on the Barber Shop, so I kind of skipped most of my format. But, you'll note that I always talk about, who the show is sponsored by. I talk about my, what's going on in my life. Then we talk about movies that have to do with the topic. Then we get into the topic. Grown Girl works for iHeartMedia, so that's cool. We should probably talk to her.
Yeah, come and talk to us. Come and talk to us.
Yeah, come talk to us. The movie that actually I thought of, have you ever seen the movie for today's episode? Have you ever seen the movie With Honors?
I probably have, but I don't remember it.
It's Brendan Fraser and Patrick Dempsey, and he's got a college radio show, and he's just a goofball. It's Brendan Fraser like nobody has seen before. He's in college at the time. He's like really awkward looking compared to like when he grows up. And he has a college radio show, and it's just funny. He just like talks about whatever he wants to talk about.
That they always say, Christopher, they always say they have a face for radio.
For radio. Yeah. That's what, I don't know if you know this. I was on radio for about 5 years. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Not just college radio. I was on real radio. And that was the joke is I had a face for radio from all the people. I was on the radio, and then believe it or not, I was actually in the running. I sent in my video for Want to Be a VJ at MTV, and I got through a couple of rounds, and I got invited to do a couple of things, a couple of like live things there, and it didn't pan out, but maybe I did have a face for radio. Who knows?
Yeah, that's good. Well, it's just, I think you get hooked, right? You get hooked on it. I mean, I shouldn't say I don't do. I do a lot of preparation. However, nothing that I do in my shows are ever scripted. Like, I don't
Right.
do any prepared questions for people, like,
No.
especially if I have guests and things, they always say, "Send me a list of questions." I don't
Yeah.
do any of that
Yeah.
because I want it to be real, right? I want it to be like you're sitting in my living room talking to me, sharing with me, about you, and that's what I want it to be. I don't
Yeah.
want it to be script because if you're gonna do it script, why listen to it, right?
Yeah.
Who
Well,
wants to hear that?
so I do a little. So first of all, I want to mention. So Grown Girl here. I was on air too for a few years, and then transitioned to sales where the dollars are. We should talk to her about selling for our network because we always need people
Yeah,
to sell ads.
yeah.
I want to message you. Maybe it's a side gig, but I'll differ with you a little bit on this. I don't script anything. Sorry, this pen was bothering me. It's got a flower on it. It's in my face. Um, I don't script, and there we go. I didn't script that, right? I don't script anything. However, I do try to try to send my guest at least a list of topics that we're going to discuss, so that they kind of know where we're at. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because, for example, I had on that Professor Life last week, I had a gentleman by the name of Steve. He's a gay man who owns Bursting Through, which is a very new, emerging, like LGBTQ allyship magazine. And I wanted to make sure that you know what topics we were going to discuss because we disagreed on a couple topics. I wanted to make sure it was okay to disagree on the air with him. And he was like, "Yeah, cool, let's do it." But I wanted to make sure that was okay.
Yeah,
Like
that's
that.
kind of cool.
Yeah, like you
Mhm.
mentioned, that you had domestic violence in your history. Now, let's say you would disclose that to me privately. I would probably want to check with you to make sure that you were okay talking about that on the air, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Oh, here we've got a comment here. So
For a year, I
Jesse's
was doing live interviews on Instagram, interviewing media influencers, but felt like I needed more promotion. I miss it. Well, Jesse, you should talk to us because one of the reasons that we are doing the show is, first of all, I don't know about you, Cece. Sometimes I feel like we have a lot more to offer than just dating advice, right? Number one. But oh, hey, Karen, see, I've got one of my fans and my friends, and they may not always agree with you, Cece. Karen, you can't agree with Cece.
No, you have to always agree with me.
Otherwise, she'll mute you, Karen. She'll mute you.
No.
But Karen's a good friend, so I'm glad that you're joining
Yeah.
us. You're joining us.
Nice to see you. Yeah, it's
But
great.
I think one of the reasons that we wanted to do this show was, I think, like I said, we can offer more than dating advice on a Wednesday. And number two is, we do want to build Going Bold Wednesdays for the right people, right? So we've tried some folks who have come onto our network, and I think they had a lot of passion, but they didn't have the consistency. It's a lot of work to every other Wednesday put together a show, and not, like, you can see, I could have easily said to Cece, "Hey, dude, do you see where I'm at right now? My air conditioner is not working. I have a window unit in the window. Like, I'm not in the right place to do this." But I wanted to keep my listeners consistent, and so it's important, I think, that we do that, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I agree. Well, it's the same thing with me. I'm in my, grandkids' playroom in the
Right.
basement. So yeah, I totally get that. But it's also a passion, becomes a passion with us, I think. And we want to be able to help others and so it's something that we do on a consistent type of basis. And I love what I do. So I don't have to me, it's not work at all.
Right.
And about its preparation, I think for me, I just I do like bullet points of what I want to cover so I don't miss something.
Yeah.
So I generally do something like that, but I try not to have it too scripted. But for me, the important thing is when I'm interviewing someone, I want to know about their journey and their why as they do something,
Yeah.
because that really makes a huge difference when you're looking at a product and a service. I
Yeah.
really want to know why they do that. And as you said, I'd like to also touch on that we're growing the network, and so we have slots available for other shows. And so we do both podcasting and we do the video. And so there's shows that I also have given that are pre-recorded. They're already done, and that they're given to me for us to play on our network because we are on pretty much all podcasting type of platforms. And so we've I should count up now how many, but I'm like adding almost every week. I'm adding another platform, and I've now hired an assistant to help me because
Whoa, look at you.
I know it's hard for me to do that because I guess I'm a control freak. I didn't realize I was a control freak,
Right.
but I hate to give it over to somebody because it's my baby, you know?
I'm the complete opposite. I could actually let everybody do everything and just send me a report at the end of the day. That's all I want. Just send
Oh,
me.
really? No, not me. Yeah, I just like, yeah, it's like a baby for me. So I want my hands in there on everything. But yeah. But I'm also creative, so I think that's a little bit of it. And that's the other thing. Every show has to have a new title. Every show has to have a new artwork, a couple different sizes for the artwork, depending on which platforms it gets played on. And so and then you've got a lot of posting, and then not to mention the edits. I mean, some shows get edited, some don't.
Now, so I want to get into equipment for a second because I did some research on Amazon and on Google on video podcast equipment. I think it's very silly. But what are you using to edit the podcasts?
The podcasts I just use, and I know it's silly. There's so many different things out there, but on just a podcast, which is totally the audio, which is an MP3, I just use Audacity. I don't use anything. I don't do. See, that's a lot of people go through all this fluffy stuff. I don't do anything fluffy. I have a ring light, which of course I don't have now. I have a little ring light on my desk.
Yep.
I have a huge one that I can take with me.
Yeah.
And then I have a green screen. I've got a great big huge green screen it's portable. I can take that with me, which I don't. And then I have a small one you can attach to your chair, which I don't use. Right. And so I have the green screen. And then I have a little camera that I attach, which I think it cost me $20. Yeah. And then I have a mic. I've bought a few mics over the time. But this last mic I bought, I don't think I spent any more than maybe $50 for. I don't spend a lot of money on my stuff.
Well, I want to show you. Do you mind if I share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I want to show you when you do some searches on video podcast equipment, right? It ranges, right? They've got this camera with a mic for $270. All these kits for $2,000. This lighting is the most outdated I've ever seen. $200. It takes up so much room, right? This actually isn't too bad. USB podcast microphone with headphone set. Not.
Oh, am I supposed to be bringing this up?
Oh, can you not see it?
Oh, here. I'm sorry. There we go. I apologize. I realize
this is the very expensive the mic, the equipment kit that's super expensive. But this isn't too bad. Look, USB podcast microphone with headphone set, zero latency monitoring, not terrible, right? I don't think you need to spend more than that, to be honest. Get a good pair of headphones, good mic, a nice ring light, which I have, and that's really all you need. I used to have, I don't know if you remember, Cece, but I used to have these huge lights that used to take up all the space, and it was so silly. And it was a gift from an ex, and so I wanted, she knew lighting and sound, so I wanted to make sure that I used it, but it really wasn't. It wasn't. There's no value there.
Yeah, I have a lot of different things. Like I've got several different microphones. I also have a soundboard. When I first started, I had a soundboard. I had a big soundboard, and then I went down to a smaller soundboard, and then I've got several mics for those. And I just found, a lot of these platforms that you can use, it's got stuff already built in, so you don't really need it. The sound quality is pretty good, but you've got to remember that if the content that you're sharing with someone is good, if it's what they're truly interested in, they're going to listen to you. Right?
Yeah.
And so you don't have to go and have a lot of flash and a lot of stuff. And I notice a lot of people, they get the microphone. Now I have it, I've got like a nice microphone. They bring it up higher, bring it down, and then they put it, the I don't know what they call it, the spit screen or whatever. They put that screen on, So you don't have that. And I have that too. And I took it off because it gets in the way all the time. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so you can have, you can spend as much as you want or as little as you want. You just get the basics on it. But
Yeah.
yeah, the
Now,
important thing is doing it.
yeah, no, I agree. Now let's talk about
Mhm.
software. So I Googled
Yeah.
a little bit earlier today. I Googled the best podcast hosting sites, and what did I come up with? But Buzzsprout seems to come up a lot. Um,
Hmm.
but then also Podbean comes up, and I know that we use Podbean. I've been using Podbean. What do you use to like get everything out there?
Well, I have several, like I said, we do a lot. Like we use the Podbean, yeah, Speaker, SoundCloud. I have there's a few other ones that I have them on. And then I post them on, a lot of other different places. So you can use all of them. The ones I was looking at was Lisbon, is it Lisbon, I think it's called.
Lisbon.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Now,
then Speaker, SoundCloud, Buzzsprout, Podbean, Anchor is another one. We're on Anchor. We're on all of them.
yeah.
Spotify, is it Spotify? There's so many different.
Now, how do you push the podcast out to everything?
Well, I mean, some of them you put on, some of it's different. It depends on which platform you use. And so when you do the platform, then you can look and they have a distribution. So my suggestion is, what is it that you're really trying to achieve, right? And so then you want that platform to accomplish that for you. So you want to look and see where it distributes. And when you broadcast, are you doing it live? Are you going to do something like Zoom, going to record it in advance, that kind of thing. And then upload it onto one of these platforms and then use their distribution. So then you can look and see who they just who they push it out through. And that's what's important, is then look at who they're pushing it out to. Do you want your information to go on that?
Right.
Like iHeart and some of the other ones. So I would make a list of the ones that are the big ones, right? Like Spotify and iHeart and all of
Yeah.
those kind of things. And then those are the ones you want to make sure that they're on your distribution list. And then a lot of them I do manually myself. So that's another thing. It's like
Really?
there's a lot of them that I do manually and put them up. So not only do I use the platforms, but then I go in and I put them up manually on everything.
Okay.
So
So when you look for the barber shop on Spotify, it comes right up.
mhm.
So it just oh well, it used to. Hold on, let me sign it. The
It
barber
should.
shop. Here we go. Yeah, it literally comes right up, and it's got my first episode right there. So it's pretty cool. Now, unfortunately, there are a ton of other barbershops out there, and I maintain that we were the first. And now,
Mhm.
freaking LeBron James and his crew have something called The Shop, where they're talking about a barbershop, and it really ticks me
Mhm.
off because I feel like they stole our idea, you know?
Okay, well, that's another thing that you should do, is you should look into, depending on how serious you want to be on it,
Yeah,
into your trade rights, into
yeah,
your branding. So you want to look into that and make sure like your logo and all of that is all registered and things like that. So people can't go in and take your name or use your things, because they will, which is really crappy. It's like taking a domain name, it's a .com, and they turn around and use a .net or use a whatever, just because they want to try to steal your
right,
steal
right.
your people, which is really silly. But yeah.
And now I see, well, on Spotify, real quick, the Boy and Girl Show comes up like immediately.
Yeah, well, again, that's going to be according to, your listeners too. When you put in things, does it come up? Because the more listeners you have, like some of these platforms, right? You put your information on, and you've got to have so many listeners for them to even start pushing your stuff. So that takes a little while. So like when a new host comes to me and they want to come on our platform and they say to me, well, I make them make at least a 3-month commitment, because it's not even a couple months before I can get everything on the distribution, because I have to wait till we get enough listeners for it, things to start being pushed through. Yeah.
See, did you know? So now I'm like hooked on. I'm looking at all of our ratings. Did you know that a bunch of my show? I'm not trying to be like arrogant here, but like a bunch of my shows that I've hosted are in the top of the Going Solo list when you go on Spotify. They're like the top couple of 2 or 3 are the ones that I've hosted.
Yeah.
Which are pretty cool.
Yeah, no, your shows are doing very well. I mean, very well. I mean, I get asked a lot. Let's see. Oh, here. Karen's saying, as a viewer, we don't know all that equipment you use. We'd like to see you and hear what you have to say and what is important. Thank you, Karen, for that. That means a lot, because it makes us know that we're, maybe what we're doing is right.
The right stuff. Yeah, exactly.
We're on the right way.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think the point of today, to close things out is if you have a good idea and you have good content, the rest of it really falls into place. I mean, microphones, all that kind of stuff, everything kind of, it's right on your computer. I think the main thing that you need to worry about is format, consistency, passion. Are you saying something unique? One thing that I'll say this, and I'll probably carry it, but one thing that the reason that I continue to print my magazines in the plus size space is because I found that influencers were coming onto the plus size space and really saying the same stuff. I'm plus size and I'm an advocate and I'm going to wear this and you can't stop me. And I was like, okay, that's great. It's totally great, but it's been said before, right? What can we say that's different? And I think when you're starting your podcast or starting your vodcast or whatever you're doing, you should come up with something that's unique and a different perspective. What do you think, Cece?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And then one thing I would add is join a network like ours. Why start on your own? You know what I mean? So why go and get like Podbean? We're already on Podbean, right? So why not go with a network that's already on Roku and Amazon TV and all of these? We're on the YouTube and all of those, but we're already on iHeart. We're already on all of the Podchaser, tons of other stations. Why not join something that's already established?
Yeah.
And then that way you get on. And a trick I do, which I don't really like to share with a lot of people, but what I do, and I've done this over the years, is I share these shows on different genres, right? Because, for instance, you have, let's say you have a business show, and the business show also talks a little bit about, they might talk about dating, and so then I would share it on the business and I would share it on the dating. And so I share it in all these other places, because guess what? Maybe who's turning into listening for the businesses may not be listening for the dating, or who is listening for the dating may not be listening to the business. So you've captured them, right? So you've captured that audience. So that's what I've done over the years, and I've been able to establish a really good base. And so that's why I think we've got so many different listeners. Is capture that. So that is a trick. So if you're out there, but what I would suggest is, if you're serious about getting listeners and you're starting something new, join us. Be a part of our team.
Make sure that you're going to be consistent and have that passion throughout, right? You can't have 2 shows.
Right. And then we also teach them, we listen to their shows. We teach them how to do different things if they're doing, to try to make it better for them. So we also do that, offer that to them.
Exactly. Well, I think that about wraps it up for WGSN-DB Going Solo Radio. And this is your host of Going Well Wednesday and of the Barber Shop. I am Dr. Christopher Salute. I want to thank you so much. My guest, Cece Shatz, who owns Going Solo Media and the Going Solo Network. And today we were just talking about, do you have a podcast, or do you just have an idea? And I see Danny Hendogs just saying what up real quick. in the comment section. Danny, go back, because I was talking about how I love watching your show, even though you don't have the right setup yet. You have some great content. So Danny's going to come on one of my shows soon, so we're excited to have him. And I think the answer is to this question is, should I start a podcast? And the answer is, do you have something to say? If you have something to say consistently every week or once a month, then you have a podcast or a vodcast. If you don't, then you just have an idea, and that's okay too. Maybe go on Instagram Live and talk about it. But thank you, Cece, so much for coming on today.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be on. And I think you're pretty awesome, Christopher. As you know, we've worked together now for years. And I think the reason we're so good together, both in the boy and girl thing and all the other thing, is that we do very much like each other and respect each other. And so it's an honor to be here. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It's an honor to be with you. And one thing about Cece and I is we don't always agree, right?
No, we don't. And of course, we do know, ladies out there, thank you for your support, that I am always right.
Right. I'm glad. As long as we agree that Cece's always right, then we're good. And we're good. Well, that was our time today. We don't want to go too long. We want to make sure this is digestible. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Salute. Cece Shatz, who's the Doyenne of Relationships and the owner of Going Solo Media, on my show. It's an honor to have you on my show, seeing as though I started my show by being on your show. And just want to thank you so much for having me on. And that is the Barber Shop. Thanks so much for hanging out. Cut.
Bye, everyone.